In 1940, Hedy Lamarr was the most famous woman in Hollywood. MGM Studios called her the most beautiful woman in the world. She had fled Nazi Austria, reinvented herself in America, and become one of the biggest box office draws of the golden age of cinema. Fan mail arrived by the thousands. Her face sold everything from soap to cigarettes. Hi, I'm Professor Paula. This is quite an interesting story about a woman whose true talents went unnoticed for decades. While Miss Lamarr's co-stars were memorizing lines and attending premieres, she was doing something else entirely in her spare time. She was inventing the technology that would one day become the foundation of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and virtually every wireless communication system on the planet. Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler was born in Vienna, Austria in 1914 into a wealthy Jewish family. From childhood, she showed an extraordinary curiosity about how things worked, taking apart and reassembling her music box as a young girl, pestering engineers and scientists with questions that most adults couldn't answer. She fell into acting almost by accident, and by her early 20s, had become a sensation across Europe. But her first marriage was to Friedrich Mandl, one of the most powerful arms dealers in Europe, and a man with close ties to both Mussolini and Hitler. Mandl was controlling, jealous, and obsessive. He dragged Hedy to his business meetings with Nazi officials and weapons manufacturers, believing she was too beautiful and too unintelligent to understand what was being discussed. He was catastrophically wrong on that second point. Hedy sat quietly at those meetings and absorbed everything. Weapons technology, military strategy, the vulnerabilities of radio-guided torpedoes that could be jammed by enemy forces. She filed it all away behind those famous green eyes and said nothing. Then, in 1937, she disguised herself as a maid, slipped out of their Austrian castle and fled to London, taking everything she had learned with her. In Hollywood, she reinvented herself as Hedy Lamarr and became a star. But the weapons technology conversations she had absorbed in Mandl's meeting rooms never left her mind. She knew that radio-guided torpedoes, one of the most devastating naval weapons of the Second World War, could be rendered useless if an enemy jammed the radio frequency controlling them. The solution, she reasoned, was to make the signal jump rapidly between multiple frequencies in a pattern that was impossible to predict or jam. She called it frequency hopping.
Why don't you subscribe for me sometime?
Working with composer George Antheil, who had experience synchronizing multiple-player pianos, she developed a system where a transmitter and receiver would simultaneously hop between 88 different frequencies, synchronized like the keys of a piano roll. Without knowing the precise hopping pattern, jamming the signal was essentially impossible. In 1942, Hedy Lamarr and George Antheil were awarded U.S. patent number 2292387 for their secret communication system. Hedy was 27 years old. She donated the patent to the U.S. Navy, asking nothing in return, believing it would help win the war. The Navy filed it away and ignored it for nearly 2 decades. The patent expired in 1959, before the military ever used it, meaning that when the technology was finally adopted and built upon by engineers developing spread-spectrum communication in the 1960s and beyond, Hedy Lamarr received nothing. No royalties, no recognition, no acknowledgement from the industries that built billion-dollar empires on the foundation she had laid. The technology that became the backbone of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and modern cellular networks, the invisible architecture of the connected world we live in today, traces directly back to a patent filed by a Hollywood actress in 1942 that the world promptly forgot about. For decades, Hedy Lamarr was remembered only for her beauty and her films. The invention that changed the world was a footnote at best. It wasn't until 1997, when Hedy was 82 years old, that the Electronic Frontier Foundation finally awarded her the Pioneer Award for her contribution to wireless communication. It was the first time the technology world had formally acknowledged what she had done. She reportedly told a friend afterward, "It's about time." Every time you connect to Wi-Fi, pair a Bluetooth device, or make a call on your cell phone, you are using technology that exists because a young woman sat quietly in a room full of Nazi arms dealers, listened carefully, and decided to do something about what she heard. Hedy Lamarr never received a cent for the invention that underpins the modern connected world. She died in the year 2000, largely remembered for her face rather than her mind. History has a habit of remembering the wrong things about remarkable people, but the next time your Wi-Fi connects, now you'll know. And if you liked this story, I'll have another episode about other women inventors that may surprise you. Until then, I'm Professor Paula, and this has been Dumb It Up.